Hi, I'm Dave,
And I'm Paul.
and we're going to challenge you to transform your financial future through the principles of the most profitable business in the world, banking.
We believe everyone should be involved in two businesses, the business that you're in and the banking business. Everyday people can replicate what bankers have been doing for centuries to leverage capital and build wealth through private lending.
Join us as we uncover the truths about money, expose lies and myths, and flip conventional financial advice on its head. Here we go. And we're back. Paul, playing hooky again today, working from home.
Working from home.
Yeah.
We got about 6 or 7 inches of snow this week, which is a lot for this area of the country. You can tell because the people that are plowing the streets have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, just in time for me to head out there.
Yeah, that's right. It's gonna be a mess probably.
Yeah, I'll be stuck in a hotel room for the week anyway.
You flying into Dulles?
I think so.
Must be. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Sweet.
So it'll be quite a bit warmer than it is here, so that'll be fine. But yeah, expecting a long, boring week. The Air Force likes to take 5 days. They pack 3 days of training into 5 days.
Well, those civilian instructors that are teaching you, they need to get paid. So
Yeah, it's almost like they get paid by the word. They have to keep you under their spell for 8 hours a day. Yeah. But anyway, how's the loan process going for your
So
your new build?
let me provide an update on this epic saga. So I've bought and sold a bunch of real estate in my adult lifetime. Just houses that we lived in, some rental properties, whatever. And so I'm used to the mortgage process. When you refinance, right? That's basically a mortgage process. It's really no different. So I've done several of those. So probably like 10 to 12 times through the mortgage process in the last 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it gets worse every time. So I started working with a lender that our builder recommended. Really back in August, I made initial contact and when we get into like September, October, we'll start getting like hot and heavy, collecting documents, whatever. I'm like, okay, fine. So we go through that and I've sent them everything, right? 2 years of tax returns, all the K1s, the checking account statements from the last 2 months. And of course, that's been updated several times. All of my, where's the down payment coming from? So I've shown them certain documents from the life insurance policies, right, that show the current cash value. And I feel like we're no farther ahead in this process with this one bank than we were back in September.
It's like 6 months ago nearly.
Yeah, so I feel
5 months.
There's been just no. So I have very low confidence that these people are going to close, or I'm just being too paranoid and they're just, East Tennessee, super relaxed, small credit union. Just this is the way it is. But my goodness. So I made the decision last week to start working with another lender in kind of like a parallel effort. And I told the guy, I was like, listen, if you can close first, I'll go with you. So you're kind of way behind, but I sent him everything, right? Updated stuff. He's a good communicator. He's all over it. So we're going to see. My money's on him because I like that dude.
So he'll do that, huh? I mean, the thing is they have time right now because they don't have a lot of loans they're processing. So I guess you have time to work a case that, in their business, it may or may not happen anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So
cost of business.
He knew my frustrations. I might have used a lot of F-bombs talking about the banking industry just in general. And he seemed to understand what I was saying. And, we're the perfect people to lend to.
Yeah.
Yet it's so difficult. So I guess I say that to say, my goodness, I wish I had started the infinite banking concept process and living it 20 years ago so that all of the money that's tied up in other places was completely liquid. And maybe it would have made this a little bit easier, although I don't know. to be honest with you, unless I could finance something entirely through policy loans, right? I guess that's what I'm talking about.
But that's what you could be able to do if you hadn't been putting your money in different places, for different purposes.
Right.
If you would put it all into the same place, a place that you can control, you have access to, you're first in line, then yeah, you probably would have enough liquidity.
Yeah. And so we'll be there someday, but it's just, and you went through this last year with your home purchase. It's super frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter that you've never defaulted, you've never been late on a payment ever. Doesn't matter.
No.
That you have the income, you can show the income.
Yeah.
It's just, my God. Anyway, so yeah, I don't like it. I think it's terrible. I think Dodd-Frank is part of the problem. That law really made the regulatory environment really, really restrictive, to protect me, the consumer, right?
Right.
But
it's all for you.
It makes it more difficult for me to do what I want to do. So anyway, start putting your money where you can control it now. I mean, you can't put enough there. In other words, you can't pay enough whole life premium.
Which is exactly what Nelson says in the book we're going to review today.
Oh, wow. I actually didn't. I just said that by accident.
He actually says that at the end of the chapter.
Yeah, I know he did.
Yeah. He says you cannot pay too much whole life insurance premium. So
what a weird thing to say for those that are not in the know, I bet.
Yeah.
They're
right.
Like, what?
Yeah. What a stupid place to put your money.
Yeah. Horrible.
Yeah. Well, what we want to do today is review Nelson's, I believe it's his second book, Building Your Warehouse of Wealth. Yep. Right? A grassroots method of avoiding fractional reserve banking. Think about it. And that think about it trend is throughout this entire book. Nelson keeps coming back to, it's all about the way you think. 100%, all about the way you think. So, I think everybody probably knows, or if you don't, the name of this podcast came from this book. So thank you, Nelson, for letting us just switch the words around and put it as a name of a podcast. But I think it's the perfect name because that's what we do. We're creating a
really
wealth warehouse.
Catchy.
Yeah. Pretty catchy.
Just flows out of the mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of my favorite parts, so I had not read this in years, but I pulled it off the shelf because I needed a book to read in the mornings, and then at night, right before bed, I wanted to read something. I was like, why don't I just dust this one off, give it another read, and see what I've been missing? And man, I tell you, there are so many gold nuggets in here. Like, this book is just chock full of them. That a lot of good reminders, and a lot of it made me laugh. I don't even think he intended to make me laugh, but I just laughed. I laugh at the clarity of the way he thinks.
Yes.
And the accuracy of the way he saw the world, and especially the way he saw human nature and the nature of government, which is, human nature taken to the extreme, typically in the wrong direction. But one of my favorite quotes right here to start off, it's just in the introduction of the book, the very last paragraph of the introduction. Conventional wisdom has led the world into financial slavery. So how true is that? I think we've done an episode or two on, conventional wisdom. And I was just having lunch with a buddy yesterday, and he's, he doesn't do a 401k. He's a business owner. He works hard to grow his business, and then he puts money into commercial real estate that he owns and controls. And he's actually got a dividend paying whole life policy. He's had it for like 7 or 8 years. And when I told him this is what I do, he's like, I've got one of those. People think I'm weird, but finally I met somebody else who does it too. But he was like, conventional wisdom and they don't jive. They don't. And you can think of tons of conventional wisdom out there that you used to take as gospel, and now you're like, essentially you want to do the opposite. Kind of like Jim Cramer. Basically do the opposite, you'll be all right.
Right. Although I got to say, a couple of years ago, he was right about General Electric. I could have bought General Electric at like $5, and then it went to like 120.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're making 100 predictions a day, you're bound to be right.
Yeah, that's
eventually.
True. That is true. Like
right.
A broken clock.
Yeah. Yeah. So this whole book, Like I've got a couple things bookmarked in here that I want to discuss,
Yeah.
but it's just littered with just brilliant wisdom. If you have not read this book, highly recommend go out, get this book. Go to infinitebanking.org, order it straight from there, and eat it up. It's going to open your eyes to a lot of things. Like Nelson's first book was great, Becoming Your Own Banker, but this one is, I guess I don't, it talks less about the mechanics or the philosophy of whole life insurance, and
Yes.
even more about the way you think and why that matters so much. Like, why does the way you think matter so much?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, it's a phenomenal book. I find that I can pick up Nelson's books and just go to a chapter and read it, because they're, especially in this, they're fairly concise chapters
Yeah.
on various topics. Almost like just not random thoughts from Nelson, but it touches a lot of different things. But again, the overall theme is, and he touches upon this in Becoming Your Own Banker, is that we've lost the ability to critically think.
Yeah.
And people think that they're thinking, but really they're just, as I think Edison said in the beginning of this, he quoted, they're just rearranging their prejudices
Yeah.
in a different way, right? So
Yeah.
and we find that in this industry, right, Dave? We, not people we talk to necessarily, but out there in the wide world on LinkedIn or just in the general public, when you're talking to somebody and you say, well, yeah, we don't do qualified plans. We put all of our savings, our liquidity into cash value whole life insurance that pays dividends with a mutual company. And, people who are interested are immediately interested. People who are like, oh, that's dumb. They're the smartest guy in the room, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's easier to find people who don't like a 401k. They don't like the qualified plan system, but it's more difficult to find somebody who understands that there's another option in this. So I think there's plenty of people who do that 401k because that's the only thing that they have available to them. It's easy. It's automatic. They don't even see it.
Right.
And that's the way they've made it, right? They made it very sneaky how they make it very automatic, very easy. It's taken out of your paycheck before you even see it.
Yeah, it's almost, we've become, to our detriment, we've become lazy.
Yeah.
Like, I know some very intelligent people, and they're good at their other business that they're in, right? Their job.
Yeah.
They're a good military officer. They're a good provider. They're a good nurse. They're a good pilot. They're a good whatever. But beyond that, good parent, whatever, all the things, right? But beyond that, they don't seem to have the motivation or I don't know, maybe it's the drive, I don't know, to just explore this. These are tiny books.
Yeah.
This is a small book. Nelson's Becoming Your Own Banker is a small book. You can read it in 3 hours. You can listen to it in 3 hours. Just a little bit of exploration would just literally pay tremendous dividends for these people beyond. But again, you have to think a different way. You have to change the way you're looking at the world. You have to think about the future. You have to think about the next generation. And I just think a lot of people are, they're in the fight. They're in the current fight and trying to just, kids, dinner, breakfast, school, homework, sports.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everywhere. And it's just, at the end of the day, the last thing I want to do is read some book about whole life insurance.
Well, the last thing you want to do is actually have to think and use your brain, because you're exhausted from life.
All by design, I think, too.
Yeah. Well, I think it's by design, not just by humans, but by the devil. If he can keep us busy, man, he can distract us with things that don't matter.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the government.
No, I was saying even worse than the government, the devil. But the devil works through the government too. But I think busyness is one of those things that we are all kept so busy. Because what happened? I mean, what did Rome do to keep the people satiated? And, the games, right? You kept them, distract them with the games. I mean, we're distracted with not only the games, like professional sports and everything else, but all the other stuff that is now a requirement. It's mandatory that your kid plays sports year round. It's mandatory that they get special coaching. It's mandatory that they go. My son started spring baseball workouts in January, twice a week. It's basketball and hockey season, and we're doing baseball already. Right? That's mandatory if you want to be on the team. Like it's just the nature of the way things are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're right. Anthony does 2 baseball seasons a year, fall and spring ball. We're not doing fall ball this year.
Yeah, it's too much. We do one season.
It's too much. Just want to break.
Because one season takes 6 months. We start in January. We don't end till July.
Yeah. I'd rather prep for basketball season in the fall, since he doesn't have a fall sport, or he can do cross country like all the other unathletic children.
People who, if you're no, truly. Yeah. Everybody can play a sport. Just pick cross country.
That's a joke, everybody. My wife, Tammy was captain of the cross country team in high school and college. So,
yeah,
but no, she's not athletic. she's gonna laugh at that. But actually, she can kneeboard and on the back, on a boat in the wake and stuff.
So she got balance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird.
Core strength.
But like just hand-eye coordination though, like catching a ball or shooting a basketball. Nope.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just born with it.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of government, another page I really like in here is page 59. Nelson just points out some things for you to ponder. And this is after he's talking about the qualified plan and how, everybody just kind of blindly does this qualified plan saying, oh, well, the government's created this. I should partake in it. Like Nelson says, when the government creates things, normally intelligent people make really dumb decisions. And
correct.
I mean, he goes just through a litany of government programs. The U.S. Postal Service, established in 1775, broke. Social Security, established in 1935, broke. Fannie Mae, 1938, broke. The war on poverty started in 1964. Over $1 trillion of our money has been confiscated every year and transferred to the poor. There's still a huge number of poor people. Medicare, Medicaid, 1965, broke. Freddie Mac, 1970, broke. Department of Energy, blah, blah, blah. On and on, right? He says the government's failed. And now let's see, you want to trust these folks with your plan for retirement. Really?
Yeah. And let's face it, most of these things in the, post LBJ era, 1964, Great Society, only can exist because we have a central bank fractional reserve system that can just print money and lend it to the treasury.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the service on the debt is now. Is it $1 trillion every 3 months or something?
I don't know.
I don't quote me on that. I was listening to the radio the other day and they said that, and I was like, I cannot believe that's what it is now.
Yeah. Unreal. Scary.
But right. And it's the same thing, I hear people say, we need to teach people finance in high school. Like who's going to teach them that?
The government. That's the last person I want teaching my kids anything about finances.
That's the right answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to have and this is not a dig at teachers, but I want them to teach my kids reading, writing, arithmetic, science, STEM stuff, whatever. Not what to think about finance. 'Cause teach my kids those other things that you're an expert in.
Sometimes it's better. Yeah. Sometimes you're better off learning nothing. At all times, you're better off learning nothing than learning the wrong thing. Right?
Yeah. And I would say what we're taught to do with our money, what we were taught as second lieutenants, was not the correct thing to do with our money.
No. I mean, and you were only taught something really if you wanted to be taught.
Yeah. I was thankful to be referred because I didn't get that kind of planning for retirement education from my folks.
Mm-hmm.
So I got it from an instructor pilot who set me up with his guy, right? And great people, right? Great intentions, but they only know what they know, and they know about this much.
Right.
So it's up. I guess what I'm saying, it's up to us as individuals, as individual free-thinking Americans, to take control over our own financial futures, right? And I get you're in the fight with all the other current operations, but you've got to do it. And if you want to be prosperous, if you want to just be mediocre, great.
Right. But what you said points to exactly another thing I highlighted on the opposite page here. Free people contracting with one another can solve all our financial and economic problems. So, free people contracting with one another, we don't need the government involved. We like free people contracting. And what are you doing with a mutual life insurance?
You're
That's
contracting with other free people.
with
Private
other with
contract.
yeah, two private entities contracting with one another, coming
Yep.
to an agreement and both accepting it, and one of them guaranteeing it. So that can solve, and that doesn't mean if everybody did this, all the economic problems of the world would be solved. It requires a lot more than that. But I mean, you and I can go into contract. We can put a contract on a napkin, and that's a legal binding agreement between two free people. You agree, I could buy a car from you for $50,000, and the value of that car is $50,000 because we came to an agreement on it.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? All it takes is two people coming to an agreement on what the value of something is.
Yeah, more like 85.
Yeah. Well, or if you want to refinance both of them, like you're talking about.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to talk offline.
I was thinking about just getting them off my credit report, but at this point, it's too late. They already pulled it.
Yeah. Oh, they've seen it. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
funny. But no,
Yeah.
we should talk about that because why not? Reliable cash flow,
Yeah.
collateral.
Right. With somebody I trust and somebody I know. So, like
Right.
contracting with you, I know you're good for it. I don't need to see all your financials. I know you well enough. I know what you're capable of. I know what you're capable of doing in the future, and I know the integrity that you have. So I know I'm going to get my money back.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's just, the question is, how long do you want to continue paying me interest to hold my money, before you pay it back?
That's right.
So I'll continue taking your interest.
Maybe you could finance my next boat.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Well, don't tell Hannah. She'd be like, well, why don't we finance our own boat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, Dave. Why not? Why don't you?
Don't start talking about boats. Yeah.
That's funny.
The best boat is your best friend's boat.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I talked to a boat owner here locally just recently. A boat marina, basically a marina here on the lake. They rent out boats.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they say if it flies, floats, or whatever, it's cheaper to rent.
yeah, I don't want to be a boat owner. One thing I can say I don't want to have ownership in, because ownership matters. Ownership's important, but not in boats. That's my opinion.
Well, I'll tell you, the next one is going to, I mean, we have an awesome boat now, but the next one's going to be, it's going to be awesome. And I'm going to finance it with policy loan probably too. When the time comes. Yep.
Yeah.
Just to, I probably have hundreds of man hours at this point collecting documents and sending them to loan officers. So it's time to, as soon as possible, start avoiding that.
Yeah. Get rid of the snakes and the dragons.
That's right.
So, another asset. So this is fun. What I follow some different types, some different financial types on social media. And one I really like following, Peter Schiff. I like what he has to say about.
Did I send you that video the other day?
Yeah, you did. I didn't watch it
Okay.
all. It was a long YouTube clip, right?
It's a long one,
Yeah.
form. Good one, though.
I've been following him for a long time, and he's very
Yep.
accurate on the Federal Reserve and
Yes.
and money printing and inflation, and in my opinion, Bitcoin. But he's very bullish on gold, and he sells gold, right? So he's got, I believe he's selling something he believes in, so I'm sure he owns a lot of gold. But I started thinking about gold. Should I own gold? What's the purpose of owning gold? What would you say?
Well, typically people have held it as like a hedge against runaway inflation. And people, talk about post-World War I Germany as an example.
Yeah.
That's the example they always bring up, or maybe even ancient Rome.
Yeah.
Runaway inflation but as you and I were talking about before we started to hit record, well, if I can't exchange a gold coin, like that's an eighth of an ounce or something for, whatever to feed my family
A week's
for
worth
week.
of groceries, right?
Right. Then it doesn't really have, it has value. It has intrinsic value, right? I can make it into jewelry. I can do other things with it. It has value in electronics. But the raw material in my hands is outside of a barter economy. Like, hey, I'll trade you this for, 1,000 rounds of 45 ACP. It's kind of worthless.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's worthless, but it's, as a medium of exchange, it's almost not valuable.
Yeah. I would say it's a parking lot. It's a parking lot for wealth. You can't, like, you and I are under the belief that like money needs to flow, just like water flows. Like water is the essence of life, right? 80% of the world's made up of water, and it flows. It's in the ocean and it evaporates into the sky. It returns as rain. We drink it. It exits our body, goes back to the ocean, and starts all over.
Folks,
right?
He's reading from memory, almost verbatim, what Nelson says in Becoming Your Own Banker. Amazing.
Yeah. It's like I read that recently. But water flows, money needs to flow. And I can't flow that money if I'm just sitting on a bunch of gold bricks in a vault.
Right.
So,
because if money doesn't flow, nothing occurs.
Nothing occurs.
Nothing
like
in the financial world has occurred.
Nelson talks
flowing.
Yeah. He says this. This is classic Nelson. He says he's talking about somebody who wants to sell him gold. Well, he writes, why does he want to give up his precious gold in exchange for my worthless dollars? If gold is so valuable, why doesn't he just keep his gold? Because, he, in his classics, the way he does things, it's Socratic questioning. He's like, well, if I want to take your advice and buy gold, I have to buy it from somebody who already owns it, right? Well, yes, you do. Okay, what does he want in exchange for this precious gold? Obviously, he wants your dollars. But I thought my dollars were worthless, right? So it's kind of like, somebody wants cash. He who has the gold makes the rules. But that person who's holding gold needs cash because
if
money has a move.
If the bank holding my mortgage starts to demand gold specie, then I'll pay them in gold specie. But that is not the current medium of exchange. Or maybe back in the day, I would have paid him with tobacco.
Yeah.
Or seashells.
Yeah. Or salt.
Or salt. Actually, yeah, salt.
But Nelson tells a funny story there. He's like, so I didn't buy gold, but then I heard a guy on the radio talking about silver. So I took this money that I got from a recent sale. He sold a lease contract he owned. He sold it for a big lump sum and he put it into silver. And he's like, a few years later, I heard that silver was up. Well, I go check and it was actually lower than the price I bought it for. So up from when? And he was like, then I checked my policy. And that year I got like a $2,500 dividend added to my cash value. So I ran back to my safe and I opened it up to see if $2,500 of silver had been added to my silver collection. Nope, it wasn't there.
Right.
So
it's a very practical and pragmatic way to think about, how are you going to live? Well, you got a bunch of silver and gold in your safe. Oh, that is something.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't really have practical use.
But in the world, if people are thinking of that as like, hey, when the world comes crashing down, when we have to be in survival mode, who's going to want your gold anyway? It's useless.
Told people I'm buying brass
and alcohol
and lead.
That's it.
And water purification.
Yeah, right. That should be, that could be a
clean
big thing,
water. Access to clean water is likely the most important thing. And then defending that parcel, being able to defend it. Those are my priorities, I would say.
Nice.
In other words, not living like 17 feet from the next house.
Yeah, that's hard to escape these days.
Talked to a guy the other day. He's got 162 acres. You'll be talking to him soon, I think. 162 acres, I think, up there in upstate New York.
Nice.
Nice. That's
good to know those people if you don't have that yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when if it's survival mode. State. Yeah. But yeah, right. But yeah, so I mean, there's so much good stuff in this book, but it's all about Nelson exposes the lies, that we're taught. The lies that, even things as simple as, let's raise the taxes on corporations so they can pay more in taxes. Like, it's such an obvious lie. If you don't understand that those corporations pass on those taxes to the consumer and the consumer actually pays the taxes, then you're blind, right? Or you haven't thought through just that comment on face value. Like, it doesn't, like, just think a couple layers deep.
Yeah. All these people screaming for the $15 minimum wage, which, depending where you are in the country, is not a livable wage. We'll prepare for the $15 Big Mac.
Right. Or, I mean, how is that fair that Mississippi has to pay a $15 minimum wage just like Silicon Valley?
Right.
Right.
It's
like,
so stupid.
You might be able to survive in Mississippi on $15 an hour, but not a lot of other places. But anyway, yeah, the real minimum wage is $0. Maybe that's a separate episode altogether.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, man, this book, seriously, everybody go get this book if you haven't read it. And it was written in 2012. So I think a lot of what Nelson's saying is kind of, the things he predicted are going to start showing up.
Yeah, it'll never be irrelevant. I mean, it's all true. You could Google the post office deficit every year. It's tens of billions of dollars, I'm pretty sure. Amtrak, they run a deficit every year of $6 billion, I think.
Right. The WNBA. Like, is that not a government program? I heard some comedian say the WNBA hasn't turned a profit in 29 years. So basically it's welfare for really tall women. Like,
I mean, it's, there's a comedian that does these shorts on Instagram. Bob Menery, I think.
The dude who plays the announcer voice. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And all 4 people watching.
I'm a big Bill Burr fan.
Oh yeah.
Man, sometimes just I'll take a break and eat lunch and I'll just throw on a Bill Burr YouTube.
Yeah.
And just laugh because the stuff he says is classic.
He's good. He lets it. He spreads it around pretty well, which is nice. And he's from my neck of the woods, so it's nice to hear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's a Bostonian.
Yeah. Yeah, not all comedians I think would be funny to hang out with and interact with, but he would be.
He would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be like hanging out with me and you. Be a riot.
I mean, yeah. But again, getting back to this book, I would just say overall, we didn't go strictly through each chapter. Maybe we will someday, but it covers a broad range of topics. It is concise, and I think, like all of Nelson's writings, it's just kind of trying to get the wheels turning in your head, get you to think a little bit about what is actually going on.
Yeah. If you want to think. If you don't want to think, don't.
Yeah, if you don't want to think, I mean,
yeah, can't help you.
Imagine if Thomas Edison didn't think, or Henry Ford, or the Daimler-Benz people, or whoever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Elon Musk or whoever. It would, the world would be pretty crappy.
Yeah. The way I see it, the more people in this world, the better, because the more minds you have and the more great ideas that are going to come to the surface and, create things that didn't exist before.
Yeah. Speaking of that, let me plug this organization that I supported last night. We went to an event, a pro-life event. It was for Vans for Life, which is a nonprofit that basically they have vans that go around to different things, and they sit outside clinics and try to encourage people to,
cool.
Make a humane decision on that topic. So anyway, I think our support, our listeners are, would be supportive of that. So it was a great organization, and we raised, I think they said that they raised enough money to save 1,600 babies last night. So
wow, when they put it in terms like that, that's amazing.
It's about $300. No, it was way more than that. Anyway, it was really good.
Yeah.
And good impassioned speeches and talks. It was just good people to be around, for sure.
Yeah.
Very positive.
That's cool. Maybe we'll bring on a guest sometime from one of those events you went to. We're working on another guest for everybody.
I'm working on
see if it works out. That'd be cool. It'd be a little off topic of finances, but I think it'd be a very interesting episode that people would be familiar with.
I'm gonna keep banging away at it.
Okay.
Might as well.
Yeah.
But we've been asked to be guests on other people's shows or have people on shows on our show, right? And we get bombarded with emails. It's funny when you start a podcast, like how many messages you get, and this is random people like, you should have Bob on your podcast.
It's the Filipino VAs or something, that are just somebody hires to, hey, go put me on podcasts. Right.
That's right. Like, stop emailing us, please.
Yeah. Block, spam. But all right. Well, cool. Hey, good talk. If you haven't, you need to get back, read that book again recently if you haven't. But yeah, well, there's certainly another chapter in there I want to spend a whole episode on. So we'll probably get that coming to you.
Maybe we'll do that for the next one.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody, have a good week. And we'll talk to you next week. Until then, control your capital.
Or somebody else will.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. If you'd like to have a conversation with us to see how you can become your own banker, or if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to tackle on a future episode, please send us an email to davidandpaul@theibcguys.com.
And subscribe and leave us a review if you're on Apple. Follow and leave us a 5-star review if you're on Spotify. And please share this with your friends. We'll see you next week.